Hello. So I'm feeling called today to talk about the full moon. So today is the third super moon of the year. So the third and final super moon of the year. And I want to talk about kind of like the energy that comes around a full moon and kind of what we're being asked to do with that energy during the full moon time. So my name is Crystal Holbin, aka Crystal Clear Mystic, and let's discuss. So, when it comes to full moons, you've probably heard that they're like a time to release, they're a time to let go. And this is something that I've noticed associated with moon cycles from my own experiences every time the new moon comes. Some people are full moon, sorry. Some people are more sensitive to the moons and the phasing than other people. It really depends on how energetically sensitive you are. And so, with the full moon, one thing that has always been present for me personally is it's a time of release. So, things that I like have been thinking about or like thought patterns for me specifically usually surface pretty heavily right before a full moon. They'll probably start, I want to say 4 or 5 days, sometimes a week before the full moon happens, where you're being asked to face these things and see them from a higher perspective. So there might be certain like fear thought patterns that continue to resurface, or certain thought patterns about past relationships and what happened in them associated with grief or loss, that you're being asked to see from a different perspective, from a higher perspective, so that you can truly release that thought pattern and raise your frequency through this full moon. I don't know why I keep saying new moon. That's so interesting. But through this moon experience. And so a lot of the time, these things are going to continue to surface for you. And they're surfacing because there's something that you're not seeing right associated with these thought patterns. So if there's like a past pain that keeps resurfacing, or a past like experience that keeps resurfacing, there's a reason for it. There is something about that situation that you have not been able to like make sense of in the correct way to release it. And so it will continue to come up for you, and it will continue to surface until you're able to see it correctly and release that tie. And so this is different for everybody, like what these things are that are coming up for different people. Different lessons that need to be learned, but that's kind of how I understand them, is that they're lessons. They're lessons that you're being asked to learn so that you can move forward differently and raise your frequency as you move forward. So the other thing that happens with like the full moon, so there's that release, right? That release of like certain thought patterns so that you can move into a different frequency. And then there's also like this kind of like purging that a lot of people feel. So a lot of people feel like, I was just talking to a client about this like want to move their house around or shift their room or redecorate. Like those kinds of things are so important because that's information that you are unconsciously reorganizing. And so when you're unconsciously reorganizing, you're going to want to externalize that in some type of way. And so you're going to want to reorganize your space, redecorate your space, move things around, purge things from your space. So release certain things, get rid of certain things that you're not using anymore. Um, and that is a sign that unconsciously you are doing some type of reorganization, and that's to also raise your frequency. And so when you're being asked to do that externally, that's kind of like you embodying the energy that you're feeling internally into your external. So when you get those information or those hits to do that, do it. There is a reason that you are being asked to do that. The other thing that I usually do on the full moon is that I will, after, right after the purging, after the releasing, after the thinking about things differently and learning the lesson and removing those thought patterns and stuff, I think it's really important to make sure that you're clearing out your space, like your energy. So, I usually use Palo Santo. That's my personal favorite. I don't like the smell of sage, but some people like that instead. But I will go around and I will sage my home, and I will make sure to say, um, anything that is not of love and light and of my highest good and my highest timeline is not welcome here, and only of my highest timeline and of my highest good is welcome within the space. Only that energy. Everything else must leave, and I'll kind of like go around my space and do that. And it actually will clear out your space so that you can start anew as the full moon happens. So that's something that I have like learned to do because I've noticed personally that like when I learn the lesson with the thoughts or I purge or whatever, and then I do that, it actually clears the energy out in my home so that I can then um like feel different the next day. So sometimes I've noticed that like my energy level will go up. Like I'll have more energy to do more things. I'll be more clear in my mind. Like, and I'm very energetically sensitive. So like I notice these things pretty clearly. Certain thought patterns don't follow me, right? Like that I think is like so important is that you're clearing the energy of your home so that you can then let something else in with this full moon. So that's part of like working with full moon energy from my personal perspective and what's worked for me personally. And so clearing your house and saging. I would also say cleaning your house. So I've heard from many different people, and I think that this is true personally, that energy sticks to dust, it sticks to dirt, it sticks to clutter, it sticks to chaos. So anything in any space where you have things that are um cluttered or chaotic or dusty or dirty, right? Like I personally try to clean my home before a full moon or on the day of a full moon to be able to completely clear out that energy so that new energy can come in. That's just a personal belief for me. And so that's something that I do. And for some reason this is coming through, but like one thing I used to do is I used to use like the vac all of the time. And when I moved into this new house, and what I realized is that like I was being called to sweep my floor for the first time in a really long time since I moved into the house a couple months ago. And I was like, well, what the hell? Like, why? So I did it, right? I swept my floor and instead of wet vac mopped it. And what I noticed is that I felt emotionally clearer. And what has come to term like what I've had to come to terms with is that, ancient civilization, all different people, like all sorts of civilizations used to sweep their floor as a way to cleanse and clear energy. Um, but using the wet vac to clean the floor actually keeps things wet and set, which I didn't realize. And I actually felt a difference. So if you're energetically sensitive, you might feel a difference too. I'm not saying that you will or you won't. I mean, that's something for you to decide for yourself. But that actually like made a huge difference for me. So now I sweep a couple times a month instead of just wet backing. And I used to love the wet back because it made it go so quickly. But instead, I'll sweep instead of wet backing, and I'll just do one instead of the other, and it's like every other week kind of thing. Um, but that actually made a really big difference for me because it helped me to release some emotional residue. And it was emotional residue that I had been holding on to. And I didn't even realize that I was holding on to it until I swept the floor and then felt completely different afterwards. It was so bizarre. But something just to be aware of. And personally made a big difference for me. So, sweeping your floor, cleaning your house, wiping down your surfaces, like all of that is like important for you to clear out energy because energy sticks to all of that. So, the other thing I've heard before, and I do this sometimes, is like as I'm clearing out my house or cleaning my house, I'll say things like, I'm clearing the energy so new energy can enter, right? Like, and that type of intention is going to bring that in. So intention is everything. Intention is energy, right? Everything is energy. But thoughts are energy, feelings are energy, intentions are energy. So if you set an intention with something and you hold on to that intention while you're doing it, then it will be, right? Because it's energy. So something to be aware of, but especially when you're saging your house, you always have to set an intention. Always. Um, but I also do it when I'm cleaning sometimes as well. And that will also hold that intention to be true. Some other things I've done for like full moon is like people will put their crystals out on their windowsills to charge them, to clear them, that kind of stuff. I have done that before. I'm not really somebody who religiously does that. I just don't. I usually just clear the crystals that I use for protection through water. So I'll leave it in water overnight in my kitchen. Um, and that usually just clears those ones for me. And the other thing is like I hear a lot about moon water. And I did do that when I was first like awakening. I did a lot of moon water. I actually haven't done that in a really long time. But I do it when I feel called to do it. So one thing I had to say to a client today, and I'm just gonna reiterate it here, is if you're being called to do something and you know it's the night of the full moon, okay, do it. You're being called to do it for a reason, okay? Like these things are not random. They're there for a reason. And I'm being called to share this as well. So, this client today was dealing with releasing a relationship dynamic, having a really hard time like letting go of a dynamic that is kind of in a weird place and is not really active right now. And so, I said to them, I was like, I'm being told that you're supposed to write a letter, and maybe you write this letter and you write it to them of things that you wanted to say and everything you wanted to feel and all that kind of stuff, and then you keep it for yourself, but you put it in water, like um in a bowl of water, and you just watch it kind of disintegrate away as a way of releasing, or you can burn it, is usually what I suggest. But when I said this to the client was like, oh my gosh, I've been feeling like I need to do that. And so what I said to them, and I'm saying to you, is if you are being called to do something, you're being called to do something for a reason. This individual was being called to do this so that they could release this pattern, so they could release this thought pattern, this way of engaging, energetically chasing. They were being asked to do this so they could release that with the full moon and work with the full moon so they can start anew tomorrow. So, my suggestion to you is that if you are having any thoughts about those, there's a reason. There's a reason that you're having those thoughts and those things about it. That's your intuition trying to tell you what to do to work with this full moon energy. And the reality is everybody is going to experience different things with that. Some people are told to make moon water from their intuition. Some people are told to charge their crystals. Some people are told to clean it right. Like it's different for everybody. For me personally, I decorated my whole house for Christmas and it's like so beautiful and lovely. And I put lights up and like I love lights. So like, but that is like what I was called to do leading up to the full moon, right? And that's something I haven't really been called to do in the same way. Like every full moon might be different, every energy might be different. It's really about learning to trust yourself and learning to trust that what you're receiving is what you need to do to actually take care of yourself. And so I'm saying that to just reiterate that to you. If you have a feeling you're supposed to do it, do it. There's a reason. There's a reason for everything. Just trust it and just do it and just follow up with it. Um The other thing that I'm being called to say too is like if you've ever done an egg cleanses are really like helpful to do on full moons too. So like they talk about like you rub your body with like an actual egg and you rub it over the different parts of your body all the way from your head, like the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. And you rub it over your body as many times as you feel intuitively called to. Um and you make sure to like do your whole body and then you crack it into a glass. And when you crack it into a glass, if it looks like mucky or yucky or discolored, then that means that you're cleaning your aura, right? That's like aura clearing, aura cleaning. And The reason that you would do it on a full moon is so you can, like, have a fresh aura for tomorrow, but, like, taking the trash out that night too is, like, taking away whatever you're holding on to that is, like, trash, right? That's not helpful. That's, like, not serving you. So, like, you would take the glass. They some people say you break the glass, and that means you're having, like, a breakthrough, and that's part of, like, the process. I mean, it's all about what you believe, but you shouldn't keep the glass in your house is what I've heard. So, like, throwing that away and then taking the trash out at the same time, like, all of this is signaling to the universe, to your system, that you are getting rid of things that are not serving you to let new energy in, to give space for new energy and things. So this can happen in so many different ways, but I think it's important to, like, think about that, right? We're releasing, so we're making space for the new to come in. Okay. So, the full moon is just a really powerful time to do that. It's a really powerful time to be in touch with that and really, like, engage in that and kind of work with that energy. Um, I think that's all when it comes to, like, the full moon ideas of what to do to kind of work with that energy, and, like, move forward with it. Um, so if you would like to work one-on-one with me and you feel called, you can check out my link in my bio. I offer coaching, spiritual guidance, and I also offer psychic readings. So I wish you all the best with this new moon, full moon. Oh my gosh, full moon. I hope you have a happy time releasing and you wake up tomorrow feeling fully rejuvenated and new. Love and light.